The Hornets go over the weekend, but are they playing better? And could they have gotten a win if Brandon Miller wasn't ejected against Philly? We'll get to all of it today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to, but faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Me and Doug, we're back together. There's Doug, all bright and shiny today with the bright neon yellow hat and the yellow hoodie. He is shining. We're getting the week started off right. Everyhornetsboxscore.com. That's where you can check out his work. You can listen to me, Walker Mail, a lot more dull with the gray and black. You can also listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m., 92.7 FM. You know, we are in a decent mood here, Doug, despite the Hornets going over the weekend. And for me, I think it comes down to a couple of things that you also seem to agree with without us sharing opinions on what happened over the weekend at all before we started recording. One, it feels like the Hornets might be playing a little bit better, but we can get to that. The other thing is, it was interesting. It feels like when you go up against Philly, even if Philly had been losing to everybody without Joel Embiid, the Hornets competed and were in this game at the very end without Brandon Miller, who was ejected with like 2 minutes left to go in the second quarter, and nobody agreed with it. Zero people agreed with that ejection. And so it felt like maybe a little bit of that moral victory. I know Rod Morrow looks for him every single game, maybe against Philly. A tiny moral victory. What do you think here, Doug? I know you got rid of that losing culture a long time ago because we should demand more of this team.
Yeah, but that was when they were still with the window slightly cracked on a play-in. You know, now I have shed a lot of those expectations. And I think the coaching staff is at this point, am just looking for who's going to play better in meaningful minutes. And to have meaningful minutes, you have to compete. You don't have to win, but you've got to compete. And they've competed in these past couple of games. And so that's what I'm looking for at this point. But back to this Brandon Miller ejection. I mean, I don't even have words for it. I have letters, BS, because it was absolute horse bleep. That's what it was.
FU? I thought you might go FU with some of the other letters as what, but
FU,
anyway.
yeah, that's a good one too. Like this, it was incredible. Like he's never going to get that call. As soon as he gets his first All-Star call, he's never going to get that kind of call again. But as soon as Tyrese Maxey started to bleed from his nose, I was like,
that was it.
Honestly, I do believe that with all of my heart. They can go and check the monitor and stare at the monitor for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't care. Like they saw that Tyrese was bleeding and they were like, this guy's out. We got to look at the screen for a little bit to make it look like we're really thinking about this. But that guy over there is bleeding. So Brandon's got to go. It was complete and utter nonsense. Here's why it was nonsense, because the act itself should have gotten a flagrant because it was up high. It hit somebody in the head. When you hit somebody in the head now in the NBA, you get a flagrant.
And it was extra. There was an extension. You can't walk away without a more serious foul than a or anything less than a serious foul, right?
I'll disagree. I don't even think it was extra because Tyrese was tiny and Brandon is tall and he has long arms. I just think it was a physical thing. Like had somebody taller been guarding Brandon Miller, they would have gotten a shot in the chest. But because, Tyrese needs to climb a ladder to change.
Should have been taller.
Yeah, he needs to climb a tall ladder to change a light bulb. Then that's why, you have this situation. And so I think it should have been a flagrant 1, but not a flagrant 2 because there wasn't any kind of malice and it wasn't, to me, it didn't rise to the level of like, oh, he could have really seriously hurt someone. Like guys are flying through the air and then they make contact. That's where you go, okay, he could have seriously injured Tyrese Maxey. There was no chance of that happening on that play.
Well, and also, if you're an official, this goes back to something I think most people would argue, especially in a game where Philly doesn't have Joel Embiid. They've been losing a lot. It's the Charlotte Hornets. They've been losing a lot. It should be a lot for you to eject the most interesting components to that game. And yet it was Brandon Miller, who is among the most interesting components to that game. You decided to eject him because he flailed. But also, it wasn't so bad that you're right. Tyrese Maxey was going to get seriously injured for a significant amount of time, and then he starts bleeding. Yeah, but how many times? I mean, we see Nikola Jokic's arms bleed every single game. You know, it's just a little blood. What are we doing? Flagrant one, let Brandon Miller play in the game, and then who knows? We could have gotten something more exciting in the fourth quarter as Philly started to separate themselves a little bit. How big of a loss do you think that was for Brandon? Because Charlotte still was there. Like they didn't go away after that ejection, Doug. How big of an impact did that provide, do you think?
Well, and I don't want to go Rudy Gobert on this, okay? I don't want to make any French connections, but I did see the line at the beginning of this game was Hornets plus 10, and the Hornets were competing, okay? So if look, I'm just saying, if you were someone that didn't want the Hornets to cover, then a good way to do that would be to take out the player that has been struggling, but really competes in the fourth quarter. We've seen Brandon Miller step up even through bad games, very similar to LaMelo early in the season when he was still trying to find his groove. He would be terrible, like awful for 3 quarters, and then go into the phone booth and come out and play like Superman in the fourth quarter. In some of the wins and losses that they've taken recently, you've seen Brandon Miller consistently be the go-to guy with that bench unit to open up the fourth quarter and some closing shots as well. And he's done really well in those moments. And the Hornets in this game against Philly could have used that because in crunch time, they were going to Miles Bridges and Grant Williams, who I thought let them down a little bit in crunch time, particularly Grant Williams, with some turnovers and bad fouling. And so those are plays that probably go through Brandon Miller, and he probably doesn't sacrifice that lead as quickly as the Hornets did in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I remember, so I actually did the post-game show for this on WFNZ. I was filling in for good old Willie P, and I was talking with Sam Farber about it. I asked him about the impact, right? And he said, you know what? Brandon Miller going out actually didn't serve as a huge detriment to this team in the initial going. And then at the end, he had the same answer. It was at the very end. I think that's when you start, because it makes sense. At the end of the game, you want the guys you trust with the basketball in their hands, especially because everything starts to get a little tighter. With Brandon as a rookie, it's already remarkable that he's a guy that you trust as much as any with the basketball in his hands at this stage in his career. But it's true, especially for this team as currently constructed, taking into consideration all of the injuries. And so, yeah, Brandon Miller there would have been huge. And that's how Philly, of course, is able to separate at the very end. And so they come up with the loss. But I think that's right. And we can get to it maybe a little bit more with some other details. Trey Mann was excellent in this game. Man, he was so fun. 2-way performance, 4 steals. He's really good at anticipating where passes will go sometimes. Like I attended a game, I forget, I think it was Orlando, where he had a couple of steals where he just read exactly where that basketball is going to go. And then he jumped the passing lane. And then when you jump a passing lane, sometimes you just get one hand out there and then deflect it, and then you end up with the steal. No, but he's just right there waiting on the basketball. And so he's got a knack for that. He was good in the absence of Brandon, but you still need him at the end in winning time. So hopefully he gets back and helps this team a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. Well, strong rebounding game from Trey Mann too. I mean, he was getting offensive rebounds through like 3 or 4 Philadelphia jerseys. I mean, he does so many little things in a game when he's on, and when his offense is impactful and he's not turning the basketball over, you know, and he's playing like sound team defense and not being out of position, then he can be a strong contributor. Clifford was asked about Trey Mann after the game and said, well, I think he's learning. The biggest thing he's got to get to is consistency in all areas of play. So
Cliff, that's so Cliff, you know, everybody wants it, but that he will go to that. And he's been going to that since the Jeremy Lamb days.
But he's not really wrong though.
Oh,
like
no,
if
not at all.
No, I mean, if you just pay attention to how Trey Mann has played, he'll have one of these incredible games and then follow it up by making mistakes that lose him playing time, or just he'll have a quiet game. So yeah, he does have to get to some level of consistency, especially. All of this is audition time for all of these players about like who is going to be the focus of the starting lineup and of big minutes when we get to next season and all of these guys are healthy and all of these guys are under contract. So, big time for Trey Mann, and hopefully he can follow it up in this next matchup that they have coming up.
Let's take a look at some of those other guys you mentioned in the audition stage. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
More Trey Mann thoughts, more Vasa Micic thoughts, and then we'll discuss if the Hornets are actually playing better despite still losing at a high rate. That's all still to come on Locked On Hornets. Before we get to that next topic, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. And LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly providing ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. More Locked On Hornets ahead.
Before we talk more about these weekend games, Walker, I have a confession to make here on the show. And the confession is that I did not watch the Philadelphia game live. And so when I checked the box score and I saw that Brandon Miller had only played 15 minutes, I assumed the worst. I mean, my mind immediately went to, my God, ankle injury, knee injury. Here we go again. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to watch this anymore. And I was actually relieved that he got thrown out of the game.
Of course, it's a way better alternative. Yeah, way better.
I didn't watch it live because I got a chance to go to the Nashville-Charlotte MLS game and present the man of the match to Sam Surridge for his first goal in a 2-1 win. I hate it because I know the people that listen to this show, I'm sure a lot of them are Charlotte FC fans. I apologize, but Nashville, my Nashville team, they got the win.
Wait, hold on one second. You got to present something at the Nashville FC game?
Well, yes, because I guess they rotate the supporters groups that are part of the fan-driven thing in soccer. They rotate them as the different groups get to give out the man of the match. So my supporters group, Mixtape 615, we have a podcast, by the way, that I produce. If you're interested in Nashville soccer,
I didn't know that. I didn't know any of this was going on. I didn't know any. I knew that you were getting involved somehow. I didn't know that you were recording a podcast. So one, that's awesome. Congratulations. Also, you're a traitor. Third, that's awesome. Congratulations. All of that is true.
Well, I don't talk. I don't talk about it a lot because it's not that I cheer against Charlotte. I don't hate Charlotte FC. It's just when I picked up soccer, and I picked up soccer because I became a dad and I needed something to do on a Saturday while I was looking after the baby. And when I got into soccer, I just decided, look, I'm in Nashville. I cheer for the Hornets. I kind of cheer for the Panthers. I don't really look at the Titans at all here in Nashville. I'm not a hockey fan. I'm sorry. I tried to get into hockey, couldn't do it. So I'm not going to be a Predators or a Hurricanes fan. So I was like, the one hometown team I'm going to cheer for is Nashville SC. It was crazy, man. Geodis, great park, great atmosphere. But I didn't watch this game live. I did catch up on it and do the game notes. And I was relieved to see that Brandon got thrown out of this game.
No, it's a way better alternative. Yeah, congrats. That's awesome. I did not know that. That was shocking to me. But anyways, yes, it's a way better alternative for Brandon Miller to be ejected than hurt. And hopefully we don't have any more injuries before the end of the season. Any other details you wanted to get to here when you look at the box score against Philly? And then I guess we could also go back to Phoenix if you wanted to. Haven't had a chance to talk about that game. Like, my biggest takeaway was that Kevin Durant got undressed twice in this one. I mean, remember, too, it was KD when he was in Brooklyn that Terry Rozier dunked on, if I'm not mistaken. So it is. We get ready for Kevin Durant, and he's giving it back to us. I remember catching a triple-double that he posted against the Charlotte Hornets way back when. So it's not like this is a team that he suffers against, but every once in a while, Terry Rozier dunk, Micic just undressing him on the baseline and then waiting the perfect moment for somebody else to come through and then swat at it, not get any basketball, and then Brandon Miller got him on the corner. Love that. Yeah, they lost, but still love to see that happen in Phoenix.
Oh, yeah. KD, he's still falling down thinking about the Hornets. Like, he's just walking around in his kitchen. He reflects on that game, and he just falls down. It's just an automatic response by his body. It was amazing. We need to hang on to things like that right now to get us through this time. There will come a time when stuff like that becomes routine. Maybe not against KD, but when highlights I remember when Kemba Walker was playing. Not KD, but Kemba Walker would make guys fall down all the time. It became routine. It became something we like to see, but that we didn't have to hang on to. We got to hang on to these things right now. So definitely take that away. I mean, I think my overall take from the weekend is that, yes, the Hornets lost both of those games, but I think generally they are playing better on defense. The offense is still awful, but at least the reason that the offense is awful is less so on their energy and ball movement, which I thought in both of these games was pretty good. The ball was moving side to side. They were making decent reads. The offense is still bad because they don't have enough players that can make shots. When they get down 5 to 10 points, they panic. Miles Bridges panics and takes early shots. Grant Williams turns it over and has the bad foul against Kelly Oubre, which was an and one against Philly that helped turn that game around in the fourth for Philly because they had a lead in that game in the fourth quarter, in the middle of the fourth quarter with like 8 minutes to go, and they gave it up. And so, but I at least like to see some improvements in the offense. It's starting to happen. They are playing better. And, it's setting up similar to how it set up last season when they started to play a little bit better. And then they had some really great games to take some Western Conference teams out of the playoff race. And I look ahead at the schedule, Walker, and I'm dotting it on the schedule, is Oklahoma City and Dallas again. The two teams that Charlotte roughed up at the end of last season, they've got them on the schedule here in April again at home.
Well,
so we could see a repeat.
It's not even that. I mean, think about the two teams you just said. Oklahoma City and Dallas, the two teams that the Hornets did business with at the trade deadline and hurt them at the end of last year. And so we're gonna see Gordon Hayward, except probably on the bench because he's not playing. And we're gonna see PJ, who's probably gonna miss 13 threes because he's just been crazy. Oh my God, ice cold, not a shot going in from distance inside the
that's
3-point
a shame.
arc. Yeah. Hey, look. It's crazy because Grant Williams is hitting all of it. Like, he's shooting really well from three for the Hornets, and PJ just not hitting any. But like, now he's rebounding, but Grant Williams is leading this team in on-off. And the fact that Dallas gave up the first to go get him. Yeah, so in just a little bit of interesting storylines there when you go against those two teams that the Hornets did business with. But yeah, I'd go ahead real quickly.
I just got one thing that I noticed over the weekend that I wanted to get your thoughts on. So, Vasa Micic playing exceptional basketball right now, and a lot of it has to do with his ability to drive, draw in the defense, kick out, work with other players. In the pick and roll, too, just sort of simple pick and roll plays, he's executing really well. He and Grant have had a good connection in that last win. It was pretty essential for Vasa and Grant to get together in that fourth quarter. Vasa and Bridges have a really good connection, and we know that Vasa and Vasa have a great connection. Vasa loves him some Vasa Micic, and so that's great. But I haven't seen him do as much with Miller. And that was my eye test, and I went and checked the stats on this, and he's almost doubled the amount of assists to Bridges and to Micic that he's had. I think 27, 26 with those two, and then only 14 with Miller. And the points per assist play, it's almost doubled with those two than it is Miller. So are you a little bit concerned about that Vasa and Miller haven't had that really great connection like those other two players that I mentioned?
Yeah, good pickup by you. I don't know if I noticed that as much out there on the court. First, to answer your question, it doesn't concern me as much. I think in an ideal world where everybody is healthy, which is the only way that this team has a chance anyway, it's with LaMelo on the floor. The idea is that Brandon Miller will be sharing a lot of the time with LaMelo. Now, if it becomes to a point where Steve Clifford, whoever the next head coach is, decides that they want to stagger Brandon and LaMelo constantly because those are the two most trusted primary ball handlers, and then maybe you have Micic rolling in with not only Melo, but Brandon too, then maybe that starts to become more of a problem. We still are dealing with a good enough sample size to start to measure, but not enough to say, okay, this is their chemistry and this is cemented and how they're going to play together long term. It doesn't worry me as much, but some of the guesses why I think this is happening is because I think Micic, I guess if Micic has the ball in his hands and he's looking to drive so much so, maybe you would expect Brandon Miller to be somewhere out there on the court for a kick out. I don't feel like we see Brandon shoot a lot of threes from the corner. And so I guess when you kick out, when you drive, maybe you're hitting the corner a decent amount. And then you just have Grant there more so. Maybe you have Miles crashing down. Those are guesses. It's not anything that I've noticed, but I don't know if I'd be concerned about it. If it happens again next year, if you're doing the stagger thing, whatever, then yeah, I guess that would be something that the coach has to consider going forward.
Well, and those two, Grant and Miles, are more screen setters than Brandon Miller. Although I would note that he and Nick have had a couple of good alley-oops, but he's had 2 more assists to Brandon Miller than he's had to Nick Richards at 12. So it's not all about screen setting, but I think that's an underrated thing that we haven't really talked about in terms of, we talked a lot about Brandon putting on some weight and how that will help his game. But that's another thing too. It allows him to be a little bit more physical, be more of a screen setter. And then you could run him on some Vasa running off of him and Grant on staggered screen sets. And then having, then screen the screener action and have Grant screen for Brandon and have him wide open for 3. So I think, him putting on weight is just going to really transform not only his offense, but just the Hornets offense in general in terms of what they can do and the number of things they can do with Brandon.
Yeah, and by the way, Grant is shooting a lot of corner threes with Charlotte. Miles is not. In fact, he's shooting as little from the corner
a lot
as
of corner
he has.
twos.
Yeah, that's true. He's not shooting. It's in fact the least amount compared to the rest of his career that he's actually shot with Charlotte from the corner this year, just in the 12th percentile among forwards in the NBA, according to Cleaning the Glass. So, yeah, interesting. We'll see, I guess, some of these guys, you're going to have to try to figure that out. Depending on how many players you keep, Micic, Mann, both of those players auditioning for bigger roles next year when everybody is healthy. That's going to have to be taken into consideration, how well they pair up with the LaMelo. I really am excited to see how they pair up with LaMelo. I've said it a million times. I think this team, not maybe necessarily LaMelo, but I think this team is at its best when you have another ball handler alongside LaMelo. Just because in theory, as a philosophy, having skilled guys out there on the court where everybody can break you down off of the dribble and both of these players can shoot. It's so many times I think people will try to say, this is your role. LaMelo handles all the primary ball handling duties and everybody else just needs to be able to shoot. And then you can have somebody a little more stagnant at the 2 spot and Brandon doesn't need to do a whole lot. No, part of the reason why Brandon and LaMelo I think is going to work long term is because Brandon is good at handling the basketball enough to where maybe he can't get to the rim. That's still a problem, but he's still a good passer. He has good vision. And I think those two guys playing alongside each other will work. It's the same with Micic and Melo. I think that's going to be good. Micic's not going to hit the spot up threes, but you have to make sure that you cut off those driving lanes. Micic is legitimately very good at driving. Like it's hard to stay in front of him. And then he makes pretty good decisions and he finishes at a high rate. Really good finisher. So that complements LaMelo a lot, Doug. Like Micic and LaMelo playing alongside one another, that's going to be fun basketball, in my opinion. I'm glad I've gotten away from the how do we turn Micic into assets to now I'm legitimately excited about him being a part of this team. I got rid of my cup check disease that I had, and now I'm here with Micic and LaMelo with a guy that's actually a legitimate backup point guard.
I hope so. And Micic with a full offseason with Kreitzer, if they stick with Clifford and the staff, I mean, if Micic fixes that shot and well, here's the thing. Even if he doesn't develop a three-point shot that's consistent, if he just gets a runner, like if he just comes out of next offseason with a runner that's somewhat consistent, that changes his offensive game completely.
Yeah, smart vision, smart basketball player. Yeah, turns it over a little too much. But if you have a good assist percentage and you get to the rim a lot and finish once you get there, that's staying power. You're going to find a team and you're at least going to have a decent sized role. Let's move on. We have one more segment to go coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
You know it's bad when ... You know it's bad when how? This feels like you might be a redneck, except we're going to take our comedy tour to the next segment with you know it's bad when. You kind of got the stash like Foxworthy, and so maybe Doug plays Jeff Foxworthy. That's it. I'll leave it there. Coming up next on Locked On Hornets. I'm still laughing at the accent. This episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. You know that instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good? That's what you get with Stitch Fix. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. You can easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. You just give your stylist your size, style, and budget preferences. You order boxes when you want to and how you want to. No subscription required. And they just can send you 5 for-you pieces plus outfit recommendations, pro styling advice, and then you keep what works. Send back the rest if you want to. That's fine. Your stylist always sends just right pieces, and the fit is on point. It's like they have style ESP or something. You don't ESPN if you wanted to go with Mean Girls references. You don't know how they do it, but they just get you. Stitch Fix makes it all so easy. You don't like to shop, and they save you that time and effort. Plus, you get outfits that make you look and feel really good. And if you don't love something, just send it back again. It's okay. Shipping, returns, and exchanges are always free. Style that makes you look and feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Do you have any more? Is it a limited fake Jeff Foxworthy? Like how limited are we talking with this Foxworthy accent?
I don't know. I don't even know if I was doing Foxworthy. I was just digging as deep into my Gastonia bag as I listen. I don't know if I talk about this a lot on the show, but I am from Gastonia, very proud of it. But coming up in broadcast and learning the trade, you do drop the accent a little bit, but it lives in there and not too deep. I can pull it out pretty easily. So that's what I was doing there. It's bad when also I tell stories. I make up these stories for my baby to try to get the baby to go to sleep. The baby does not want to go to sleep. So I'm telling a lot of stories these days. And when you tell these stories, you got to come up with different characters. And so I came up with Ronnie and Donnie, the Worm Twins. And the Worm Twins have that accent. Ronnie and Donnie, the Worm Twins. So that's where I'm getting a lot of practice with
I like the Worm Twins. I like the Worm Twins. Yeah. So you and I are both very similar in that we don't talk about it a lot, but I'm from Catawba County. Shout out to Catfish, North Carolina. Yes, Catfish / Claremont, North Carolina, a town of 1,000 people. And so I also do not have the accent. Also having family in the Midwest from Indianapolis, that helps as well with the accent.
Wow, that is a mishmash of mushmouth.
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so, yes, I don't quite have the accent anymore, but I don't have to go too deep either to go back to the good old Claremont Elementary, Bunker Hill, Catawba Intermediate School days, man. I got that for days as well. And so it's fun. I can create some worm twin characters myself.
Speaking of Gastonia, shout out to Mark from Gastonia, longtime caller to WFNZ, who I'm sure has listened to this show a time or two, being a huge Hornets fan, was dealing with cancer, had surgery. Seems like he's back home now. That's true. It's good to hear. Yeah,
that's thank you for bringing it up. We've talked a lot about it at WFNZ, him going back home after having a ton of health issues. It was really, really bad for a while. We weren't entirely sure if he was going to pull through, but he did. Keeps fighting. He's back at home, and he's getting everybody that's ever mattered to the Charlotte sports scene. They are sending him get well videos, and so it is cool that he's back home. All right, let's play the game. Let's go back to what brought this conversation to the forefront. It's bad when it is our version of you might be a redneck. At least that's what I'm going to call it. So it's bad when what, Doug? What is the first it's bad when that you have at the top of the dome?
Well, something is bad in Hornets land when one of the Sams, there are two Sams in the Hornets universe, Sam Purley, who is the Hornets.com writer, and then there's Sam Farber, who is the radio voice for the Charlotte Hornets. If one of them make a critical comment about something, because I think for Sam Purley, who's been on the show multiple times, I think he does generally call balls and strikes how you see them. But look, you are employed by the team. As much as people accuse you and I of being shills for the team and getting money for the team, we do
get
not.
It both ways.
We do not get a single. I have never gotten a single check. I'm still waiting on one because they keep stealing my catchphrases. But I have not gotten a single check.
Watch out! Watch out!
I'm looking for. I check my mailbox. I go up. Nope, nothing from the Hornets today. I'm waiting on a check, but they have never given me a single dime. But these people are employed, the Sams. And so when one of them comment, I will say that it's probably like Sam Purley is Sam Con 1. And if Sam Farber, the radio voice, that's Sam Con 2. That is like I think it's backwards. The higher one is less. So it's Sam Con 2 if Sam Purley says something. It's Sam Con 1. We are about to go to war if Sam Farber makes a critical comment. So I've got two Sam Con 2s for you here. Okay. Sam Purley making these Twitter comments over the weekend. First about Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges' shot selection. This is from Sam Purley on Twitter, at Sam_Purley. Miles Bridges' shot selection has not been stellar this game. Too many long pull-up twos, coupled with his foot on the line with plenty of time still on the shot clock. 66-62, Philly lead, timeout Hornets, quarter 3, 4:20. It's pretty bad. It's got to be bad. The shot selection has been very bad.
No, it's true. It's something that we've been talking about a lot, and Sam listens to this show, so big shout out to Sam Purley. But yes, I think he could understand, like when he writes that, it's like, okay, yeah, this is an issue, but go ahead to the next one, Doug, because I know what's coming.
Well, let's talk about this. I mean, do you agree the shot selection?
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, and we've had this convo. How many episodes do you think we've done where there's been a segment or a mention of Miles Bridges' shot selection? Especially,
it's been consistent.
I mean, you even had a joke in the last segment where it was along corner 2, like it was when we were mentioning corner 3s. That's just how it's been.
Here's the issue. And Clifford brings this up all the time in postgame, and I couldn't agree more. Clifford and I don't always agree about things, but I agree with him in this. The Hornets team, as currently constructed, does not have players right now that you can just throw the ball to and say, go get me a bucket. This offense runs completely through you. ISO, everybody get out of the way. There's no Kevin Durant or Paul George. You've got one in Brandon Miller who is going to be that. And as soon as next season could be that. Could, maybe, but not there yet. They've got to move the ball if they're going to score. And when he says that, I mean, Miles Bridges is included in that. But he's operating, especially when the Hornets get down 5 or 10 points, he is operating like he's that kind of player. He is not that kind of player. And he keeps taking these just ridiculous shots that nobody, no analytics person, no eye test person would look at and go, yep, that's a good shot. It's got to stop.
Oh, no, well, look, it's been prevalent for a while. The fair thing to Miles here is that he's playing out of his role, what should be. And that was true of a lot of different players over the past couple of years. I mean, whether it was PJ needing to go for 30 last season, whether it was LaMelo being out, which caused all these other guys like Terry Rozier having to go to point guard. And Terry got better for it, to be honest with you. Maybe some of this can go to the blessing in disguise philosophy for some of these guys. But we expect Miles to be back. Maybe this is helping him get his feet wet again after having a year off of basketball, again, because of his own doing, felony domestic violence arrest. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not been good. We've mentioned it a lot, especially here recently, and especially at the end of game situations.
I'm going to be unfair to Miles. Pass the ball instead of taking a contested 2-point shot. Okay, I'm sorry. Like if you take a contested 3, then I'm going to be less hard on you. But he is vastly overshooting from mid-range relative to the rest of the people at his position, and he's shooting below average. Like if you're shooting below average mid-range shots, that's devastating to the team's efficiency, to your efficiency, and to the overall flow of the offense. I'm going to be very unfair to Miles and say, pass the bleeping ball. Okay, next one. This next one is also Sam Con 2. It's from Sam Purley over the weekend saying, not a great couple of plays from Grant Williams. Risky pass into traffic for a turnover. Foul Oubre for an and one on the other end. Feels like the pivotal swing sequence, unfortunately. 76ers lead 103-93. Timeout Hornets, quarter 4, 121. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's definitely, if you're asking me if that continues to be a problem, like, look, it's going to be hard to disagree with Sam Purley on anything remotely critical of the team. Right? Because
that's the whole segment. The segment is, it's bad, win.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so if the game is, do you agree or disagree? I have to imagine it 99% of the time, it's going to be a hard agree, especially with Sam, who is very smart. You've accused me of only considering him as valuable for his brain and his numbers brain, right? Also watching every single game, leading every single press conference that you ever have at the Spectrum Center. Sam Purley is on it. And so, yeah, man, like those are the observations. I mean, it's damn near gospel. That's how it is when Sam Purley says something on Twitter.
I'm telling you, when Grant passes face up above the break, my whole body cringes. I get into a fetal position on the couch because I know something bad is going to happen. Yeah. But when he's in a post-up position and when the defense is waiting on him to make a move and he can catch guys ball watching, like that's the thing. He's a good passer. I think he thinks he's a lot better passer than he is, and he sort of overplays that passing ability a little bit. But he is a really good passer.
No, I think that happens with a lot of good passers, right? Like there are some coaches, I guess Steve Clifford has always been one where his offense has been comprised of not turning the ball over. And you go back to all those years that he was here the first time, very low turnover, like the best in the league type good. They were very good at taking care of the basketball. But some coaches will tell you, hey, that's okay. Try to fit that basketball in that window because it might lead to an easy basket. And we're going to take those chances a lot more, especially if you're more of an offensive laden team where it depends. And so a lot of the times these good players, these good passers will think they can fit the basketball in that window. And sometimes it catches a foot and then it goes awry and then somebody collects it and then you're running the other way. But yeah, like that makes sense what you're saying with Grant. And I think that's why Micic has a lot of turnovers. He's a very good passer, but you see him turn it over quite a bit too.
LaMelo, come back, please. Please. We haven't tried this approach. We haven't tried begging. Please, I beg you, come back. Just one game. Just one. Let's try it out. You don't have to stay. You just try one game. We'll see how it goes. Please.
I like that tactic. I hope it works. Do we have a DEFCON 1 tweet in there somewhere?
I wish. We're waiting on it. For the Sam, if you find it, definitely retweet it, add Locked On Hornets. If you see a SamCon 1 come across the board, let us know. Because he is ultimate Silver Linings playbook.
They do not call him Sunshine Sam for no reason, folks.
We love him. I love it because here's the thing.
Oh, yeah. That's how I want my announcer to be.
We need that. That's what I'm saying. We got to hang on to things. It's pathetic. I will admit that some of the things that we talk about on the show and hang on to in the context of people who listen to like the Phoenix Suns podcast or the LA Clippers podcast. It is pathetic. But we're sick. We're sick, Daddy. And we need Sam Farber to come give us that medicine because we're sick.
That's true. All right,
Please come back.
We'll end on that one. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. That includes YouTube. Go check out Doug's Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com, and you can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3. By the way, tune in today. There is a ton to get to. Panthers free agency, NCAA tournament, but Jamal Mashburn, Doug.
What?
We're interviewing Jamal Mashburn today. Maybe we can play some of that audio.
Tell him
back.
I said hey. Will you promise me? Tell him I said hey. He'll know what I mean.
Doug Brand. Will he be able to crack it? I don't know. Tune in to find out. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
I need a spoonful of Sam.